Imagine this for a second. A medical device, maybe one quietly keeping a loved one alive, suddenly starts acting, well, erratically. What if that glitch wasn't just, a random failure? What if it was actually an attack? That's the pretty chilling reality we're going to explore today. We are taking a deep dive into the urgent and constantly changing world of cybersecurity for medical devices. And this isn't just about the big hospital networks either. It covers everything from tiny implantable cardiac devices right up to the massive operational systems that keep a whole hospital running. We'll unpack the vulnerabilities, some of which are often hidden, and look at the very real ways they can impact patient safety, sometimes in surprising ways. And we'll also explore the crucial efforts happening now to make our healthcare tech more resilient. To help guide us, we've gathered some really illuminating material. We've got a detailed paper from the American College of Cardiology, specifically on cardiac implantable electronic devices, CIDs.
Plus, recent FDA guidance pushing for secure by design, some eye-opening insights from ICE's threat modeling playbook, and sobering reports on the rise of ransomware in healthcare. So our mission today is pretty clear. We want to understand what makes these critical devices vulnerable, take a look at the regulatory landscape that's frankly trying hard to catch up, and really highlight the shared responsibility we all have in protecting the future of digital health. I'm your guide, ready to navigate these sources with you.
And I'm here to help connect those dots, provide a bit more context on why this matters so much to all of us, especially as technology gets, so deeply woven into our health and well-being.
Okay, so to really understand what's at stake, let's start with a key example. Cardiac implantable electronic devices, or CIEDs. We're talking pacemakers,
Wow.
implantable cardioverter defibrillators, ICDs. These aren't just gadgets. They're literally life-sustaining tech.
Yeah, and it's really telling that even back in 2018, the American College of Cardiology was already actively addressing cybersecurity in these devices. They weren't just theorizing, they were responding to actual real-world stuff, like that Muddy Waters report. That report actually led to an FDA warning for Abbott because it highlighted some serious vulnerabilities in their remote monitoring systems.
Right, showing how even the way doctors check on the device could be, well, an entry point for trouble.
Exactly.
So when we talk about hacking a pacemaker, what are the actual direct patient safety issues? Our sources point to something pretty terrifying called oversensing. This is where the device gets confused, basically. It misinterprets non-cardiac signals, maybe just gray electronic noise, as heart activity. And the dangerous part, it inhibits pacing. For someone totally...
Precisely, leaving a patient completely vulnerable during a dangerous arrhythmia. And another major concern, especially for pacing-dependent patients, is sudden battery depletion. Imagine the battery just draining unexpectedly because of malicious code. It's a critical risk.
Okay, so while the sources suggest the odds of a specific hacker targeting, say, your individual pacemaker to reprogram it are low, they seem to highlight a much more common, maybe more insidious threat hitting healthcare systems more broadly.
That's right. The individual targeting is scary, but less likely than wider attacks.
And really understanding these intricate device-level risks, that's precisely why companies like DeviceRisk.Health are so important, isn't it? They focus specifically on identifying and helping to mitigate these kinds of vulnerabilities in medical devices, ideally long before they pose a threat.
Absolutely. Their work is crucial in that specific device security space.
Okay, so this brings us to a really fundamental shift, it seems, in how healthcare security is being approached. Moving from just reacting to threats to actually trying to build security in from the very beginning. Because as our sources stress, a lot of existing medical IT systems are vulnerable simply because they're built on old equipment. Stuff from maybe 20 years ago or even more that just wasn't designed with cybersecurity in mind at all. That's a massive blind spot, right?
It is a huge blind spot and a monumental challenge to fix. A device's security posture, its resilience, it really starts way back in manufacturing, long before it gets anywhere near a patient. One of our sources put it really well, saying these risks are actively shaping the resilience of our supply chains, the reliability of patient care, and the safety of our technology-dependent healthcare system. You just can't effectively bolt on security later to systems that were never meant to be connected or secured in the first place.
And it seems the FDA has really been stepping up its efforts here. They had guidance back in 2005, sure, but this recent report, I think it was June 2025, specifically calls for secure by design products. That feels like a big change.
It's a significant evolution, definitely, and it raises that key question. What does secure by design actually mean for the manufacturers? While the FDA, under this new authority from the Food and Drug Omnibus Reform Act, FDORA, which kicked in March 2023, now has a formal definition for a cyber device. And for these devices, there are much stricter pre-market submission requirements.
Like what specifically?
Okay, so manufacturers of these cyber devices now have to submit a plan for post-market cybersecurity, how they'll monitor for vulnerabilities after the device is out there. And they need a plan for coordinated vulnerability disclosure.
Coordinated disclosure, meaning they work with security researchers privately first.
Exactly. Fix the flaw before announcing it publicly so bad actors can't jump on it immediately. They also need to provide a software bill of materials, an SBOM.
Ah, the SBOM, that's like an ingredients list for software, right?
Pretty much. It's a machine-readable list of all the software components in the device. Think about it. A new flaw is found in some common open-source code library. With an SBIM, a hospital or manufacturer can instantly see which devices use that library and need patching. It dramatically improves tracking vulnerabilities listed in places like NIST's National Vulnerability Database or CISO's KV catalog of exploited vulnerabilities.
So secure by design isn't just a nice idea, it's actually a detailed set of requirements now. What are the core principles driving it?
Right. It's making cybersecurity an explicit part of device safety and the quality management system. The design goals are clear. Ensure authenticity is the device genuine. Authorization, who can access it. Availability, does it work when needed. Confidentiality, protecting patient data. And crucially, secure and timely updatability and patchability. You have to be able to fix things securely down the road. This whole proactive approach pushed by agencies like CISA and international partners is about moving away from devices being vulnerable by design to being truly secure by design, building it in, not adding it on.
But if this is so critical, why wasn't it always done? I mean, are manufacturers facing big hurdles implementing this now?
Oh, absolutely. There's a real tension there. The cost and complexity of either retrofitting security into older devices or designing it properly into new ones from scratch. It's significant. It often requires a whole cultural shift in development, plus major investment. That can be tough, especially maybe for smaller companies or those dealing with products that stay in use for a very long time.
And this focus on designing for security, understanding that digital risk across the whole product lifecycle, that really speaks to the kind of work companies like Digital Win Risk Got Health are doing, right? Helping organizations map out and manage risks in these really complex digital systems.
Exactly. Understanding that entire ecosystem and its risks is central to that approach, building in resilience from the start.
Okay, so while we've talked about specific device vulnerabilities, which are obviously alarming, the problem often scales up, hitting entire hospitals with things like ransomware. That seems to be a huge issue according to our sources.
Yeah, these frequent ransomware attacks in healthcare are leaving networks incredibly vulnerable. There was that scenario in Ponemon study. It found half of hospitals reported being hit by ransomware. And get this, over half of those hospitals believed those cyber attacks were indirectly responsible for increased patient mortality rates. That is just staggering.
It is absolutely staggering and devastating. What's really crucial to grasp here is that ransomware doesn't just lock up the IT side, like billing or records. It can directly impact medical device behavior. It can stop them reporting data correctly or even just render them completely inoperable. And this includes what's called operational technology, or OT. Think building management systems controlling heating, cooling, lighting, but also critical infrastructure like water systems and even medical gas delivery.
Wait, medical gas, like oxygen? Yes. Imagine a compromised controller for an oxygen tank farm or the distribution system within the hospital. The potential impact on patient care, on mortality, it becomes terrifyingly direct and immediate. Doctors unable to access records is bad enough, but vital equipment failing or oxygen supplies being disrupted.
Wow, okay. And it's not always these big, dramatic ransomware attacks, right? Hospitals give remote access to lots of people, employees, doctors working from home, vendors who need to support equipment. Our sources point out how attackers can just slip through those doors if they aren't properly secured, using legitimate access for malicious purposes.
That's a huge entry point, and it connects to another big problem. The explosion of the Internet of Things, IoT, and specifically the Internet of Medical Things, the IoMT. So many connected devices have been rolled out very quickly, often just to meet an immediate need without fully thinking through the security implications. This creates these enormous blind spots, especially around things like telehealth and remote patient monitoring. Many hospitals, frankly, don't even have a full inventory of what devices are connected, where they are, let alone how to properly protect them all. It's this vast, often unmanaged attack surface.
So given this really complex, sprawling threat landscape, how do hospitals even start to defend themselves? It sounds overwhelming.
It can seem that way, but the sources advocate for essentially a multi-layered defense and building a strong cyber hygiene culture. Think of it like physical hygiene in a hospital hand washing, sterilization, but for the digital realm. This means practical things like segmenting networks, keeping the critical OT systems separate from the main business network, for instance, implementing the cybersecurity basics diligently, regular patching, managing vulnerabilities, strong identity controls, making sure employees are aware through training. It also means proactively identifying every single device that stores, processes, or transmits sensitive patient data, what's called EPHI, Electronic Protected Health Information, and then making absolutely sure you're adhering to all the regulatory requirements, like IPEA, to protect that data.
And when you talk about protecting that sensitive patient data, EPHI, and navigating all those complex compliance rules across a whole hospital network, that's where services like hip-based security.health become so essential, right? Helping organizations manage that specific challenge of data privacy and security regulations.
Exactly. They specialize in helping navigate that complex regulatory landscape for healthcare data.
Okay, so we've talked about the threats, the defenses, but how do organizations move from just reacting to actually, systematically anticipating and neutralizing these threats before they happen? This seems to be where threat modeling comes in, based on the IRE playbook you mentioned. It sounds like a structured way to think like an attacker.
That's a great way to put it. Yes, threat modeling is basically a systematic, iterative process. It asks 4 key questions. First, what are we working on? This means really mapping out the system in detail. What are the components? How does data flow between them? Where are the trust boundaries, like the boundary between a cardiac monitor and the patient's own smartphone it connects to?
Okay, mapping it all out. Then what?
Second, what can go wrong? This is where you brainstorm potential threats. You can use established methods like STRIDE.
STRIDE. What's that stand for?
It's an acronym. Spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and elevation of privilege. So for a medical device, spoofing might be faking a sensor reading, tampering could be altering dosage settings, denial of service might mean crashing a device or system, making it unavailable, or you can use frameworks like ITR, ATT, and CK, which catalogs real-world adversary tactics.
Got it. So identify the potential bad things.
Third, what are we going to do about it? Based on the threats found, you decide on a strategy. You could try to eliminate the threat, maybe remove a risky feature, or mitigate it, add security controls like encryption or access controls. Sometimes you might have to accept a low-level risk, but you document it. Or you could transfer the risk, maybe through insurance or outsourcing, but with full transparency.
Makes sense. Plan your countermeasures.
And finally, fourth, did we do a good job? This is crucial. You evaluate how effective your threat modeling process was, how good the documentation is, and you refine it. It's not a one-and-done thing. It's continuous improvement.
Okay, that framework sounds really useful. Now, one specific area the MITRE playbook apparently highlights is software updates. We usually think updates are good things, fixes, but the sources say they're also a major threat vector. How does that work?
Yeah, it's a bit paradoxical, isn't it? On the one hand, the ability to securely update software and firmware is considered absolutely core to staying resilient against future threats you haven't even thought of yet. But the update process itself can be a huge vulnerability if it's not secured properly. If an attacker can compromise that update mechanism, they could potentially gain complete control over the device or system. They could override safety limits, install backdoors for later access, potentially causing harm to multiple patients if it's a widespread update.
Wow, like weaponizing the fix itself.
Exactly. Imagine the damage to public trust if that happened. That's why things like strong cryptographic signing of updates, rigorous checks to ensure it's the right version for the right device, and secure transmission channels are absolutely paramount. You have to lock down the update process itself.
So, listening to all this, it really sounds like securing medical devices isn't just one group's job. It's not just the manufacturer or just the hospital. The FDA explicitly says responsibility is shared, right? Between manufacturers, healthcare providers, patients, security researchers, government agencies.
Precisely. It has to be a collective effort. It means clinicians, for example, have a professional duty of care to protect patient data. That translates to using secure ways to communicate, ensuring the devices they use get updated promptly, adhering to encryption standards where needed, and patients have a role too, using strong passwords if their device has one, keeping connected apps or devices updated, and importantly, reporting anything that seems off or inconsistent. And transparency is key. Clear labeling about security features, open communication about risks, especially after an incident. That's essential to build and, frankly, maintain trust, because ultimately, your safety relies on this shared ecosystem working together.
It really makes you think. As technology gets deeper and deeper into every part of our health, wearables, implantables, robotic surgery, that line between a digital vulnerability and actual physical harm just gets blurrier and blurrier. So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. What ethical responsibilities do we have as individuals, as a society, to demand not just cool new innovations, but also inherent security built into every single piece of healthcare technology we interact with or depend on? So today, we've really unpacked the stark realities of medical device vulnerabilities, from those direct patient safety risks with CIDs right through to the huge threat of ransomware crippling hospital networks. We dove into that critical shift towards secure by design, looking at the FDA's evolving role and those new requirements for manufacturers.
And we also touched on tools like threat modeling and really emphasized that crucial point about shared responsibility. It takes everyone working together.
Absolutely. The world of medical device cybersecurity, it's incredibly dynamic. It's constantly changing. So stay informed. Don't hesitate to ask questions about the security of your own connected health devices and encourage strong cybersecurity practices from your healthcare providers. This conversation truly affects every single one of us. And we want to give a huge thank you to our sponsors for making these important deep dives possible. www.digitalwinrisk.health, www.devicerisk.health, and www.hepasecurity.health. Your commitment to helping build a more secure and resilient healthcare ecosystem is genuinely invaluable. Join us next time for another deep dive into the knowledge you need to be truly well informed.